Have you ever noticed a person, an organization, or community that can't seem to implement change? I think I know 3 major behaviors that could be causing this. Hey Internet, my name is Tim, and welcome back to My Nonsense. Today, I wanted to talk to you about possible behaviors causing you, your groups, your communities to fail to implement positive change. If an improvement idea is really that good, helpful, or necessary, why does the implementation of that idea often fail? There's a lot of reasons that positive change can fail, but I think I've isolated the majority of them to 3 major behaviors. If you believe I'm referring to a specific person, place, or organization, you're probably right, but not for the reasons that you might have assumed. I believe all places, all people, all organizations exhibits these behaviors at some time or another. Before we begin, there's a few points I would like to establish. The ideas and improvements I'm talking about are not the ideas that are inherently doomed to fail. I'm not going to defend a bad idea. What I am talking about are those ideas which are really good, helpful, and necessary. The ideas we know we need to be more successful. When referring to behaviors, I'm not talking about a single action or an instance. I'm talking about a collection of actions and decisions driven by a central concept. The behaviors I believe that are causing the most harm are shiny object syndrome, the sunk cost stagnation, and toxic perfection. These behaviors are not listed in any particular order. I find them all harmful to improvement in different ways. Shiny object syndrome is the practice of constantly changing one's focus to something new because of potential new positive opportunities without finishing what is currently being focused on. You can identify shiny object syndrome by the constant change of focus to new opportunities, never completing or committing to current opportunities, and accepting new opportunities with minimal to zero analysis and comparison to current opportunities. Shiny object syndrome is most likely caused by a feeling of boredom, a disenchantment with what you're currently doing. It's like if you saw something out of the corner of your eye and you turned to focus on it, and something else appeared over here and drew your attention, and then something else and something else and something else. Could you actually tell me what any of those objects look like? Now, maybe you could give me some details of one or the other, but if I were to ask you specific details, color, shape, what was it? You'd be hard-pressed to tell me any details about all of them. This is a problem because it wastes your time and your energy by constantly pivoting. An organization, a company, or an individual that is always chasing the next shiny object is never fully implementing something new. And oftentimes, you won't notice it until you have a stack of failed projects that were good ideas but never fully implemented. Now, the big theme here is a waste of resources. That is one of the fundamental characteristics of shiny object syndrome. Is you start one project, you don't finish it, you start the next, you don't finish it. With the good feelings of starting something new being the driving force that gets you to start your new idea. But with nothing ever completed, you never get that reward of actually accomplishing something. Or you never reap the benefits of what that result would have yielded. Sunk cost stagnation. It's the decision to stay the course or continue a certain action only because time, energy, and or other resources have been invested in the current opportunity, despite other more beneficial opportunities existing. Common signs of sunk cost stagnation: refusal to change. Even if change is needed or the idea presented would fix all of the current problems that are being seen. You're too focused on something. You're too committed to the current idea, when pivoting would actually be the better option. It's often identified by staying the course. There's an irrational defensiveness justifying the current opportunity only by the merits of what has already been invested, even when there are objectively better uses for those resources. It's often caused by this stubbornness to change because one doesn't want to be wrong, whether it's a person, an organization, or a community. They want to believe their original decision was correct. It may have been correct at the time if it was improperly implemented or if knowledge of the situation has changed. It's okay to pivot. but many groups will dig their heels in and say things like, I can't, we've put too much time and money into this, or what about all of this energy I've dedicated, or we have done this for so long, why would we change this? It's worked up till now. In truth, the current course only wastes further resources. This can take on the appearance of throwing good money after bad, as the sunk cost fallacy that the term derives itself from implies. You should abandon the thing because you've put too much money into it. Sinking more money in isn't going to make it better. In a work setting, this can take on the appearance of reworking a project or a job, often with no signs that results are improving with each iteration. In the community, this can often take the shape of a failed social program, something we've just done forever because we were told it would work back in the day, and new information and data shows it doesn't. Sunk cost is often caused by a regret, a rejection of being wrong, this stubbornness to admit that we were incorrect. Toxic perfectionism, the obsession with perfection to the point where no end is ever satisfying, or nothing can be started due to the assumption that perfect results will not be produced. Toxic perfectionism is like a baker trying to bake a cake, but they're an amateur. They believe they need to make the most perfect cake of all time. They seek the best eggs, the best flour, an absolutely perfect recipe, a perfect oven. They keep seeking all of the perfect this and that until eventually no cake is ever made. The cost of the cake becomes so astronomical, it's not worth the time or effort. And then on top of that, because the baker is an amateur, the likelihood of success at the end is still almost zero. It is not a bad thing to seek perfection, but it is a bad thing to obsess about it. The line between seeking perfection and toxic perfectionism is obsession. Signs of toxic perfectionism are a drive for absolute perfection, beyond what is really required, the unwillingness to start anything because of the fear that perfection will not be reached immediately. The unwillingness to complete anything once started, due to the fear it's not good enough yet. And the endless improvement on such a microscopic level that no new value is really being added to what is being improved upon. Toxic perfectionism is often caused by a fear of inadequacy or a fear of imperfection. This uncomfortable feeling that we all get with flaws. It's a deep-seated fear of criticism. Now, if you've made it this far, I got a few solutions to these problems. The solution to shiny object syndrome is to narrow one's focus. That means implementing a single improvement in an area at a time. This helps in a few major ways. One way this helps is to allow one to see the results of an improvement before attempting a new improvement. This prevents crossing results from different improvements and getting a mixed idea of how each improvement has affected what is being worked on. Another major way this helps is to help force the implementation of a single improvement before beginning a new improvement, meaning the first improvement must be seen through to the end before a second or third will be allowed to be attempted. A partially implemented improvement is not going to yield good result, and oftentimes decays into a state that causes more harm than good. The solution to sunk cost stagnation is to do a cost analysis. The cost analysis isn't purely monetary. What it is an analysis of the time, the resources, and the energy to maintain the detrimental opportunity versus the yields from a new, better opportunity. Performing an analysis is an objective way to show what is working, what isn't working, where are the costs going to, what could they be yielding in their place. It's hard to argue with numbers on paper, and it is a very good way to get beyond self-stubbornness or outward stubbornness preventing the implementation of a positive improvement. What the cost analysis is not supposed to be is a constant look or analysis of everything that's being done all the time, seeking the absolute perfect maximized way of doing something. A constant change gets us right back to shiny object syndrome, and looking for the absolute maximized potential at all times gets us back to toxic perfectionism. The solution to toxic perfectionism is accepting that nothing is perfect. Things will be imperfect, and that's okay. This accepting that nothing is perfect will help us become more comfortable with attempting small, incremental changes. Little tiny changes here and there will build up far faster and yield much better results than a single leap to the impossible task of being perfect. What this doesn't mean is accepting subpar standards. It's not saying we should accept failure. It's not saying we should accept an improvement being worse than what it's trying to replace. All it means is we need to be willing to accept that nothing's going to be perfect and there will be flaws in any solution, in any improvement that is being implemented. And that's okay. To learn from flaws, to learn from missteps is a good thing. But we shouldn't accept and embrace open failure and mediocrity either. Now, some of you may have noticed these three are all very connected to each other. They appear to be similar sides of the same problem. They're all forms of being far too extreme. In almost anything in life, the absolute extremes are bad and detrimental to almost anything. When you're trying to improve, you have to be a bit flexible. These three behaviors are not the only behaviors that can harm improvement. And ultimately, the best way to deal with any behavior that'll harm improvement is to recognize what that behavior is, call out that behavior for what it is, and explain why that behavior is harmful to the improvements being made. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or just want to help out a new creator, I'd love it if you hit that like button, smash that rumble, and subscribe for more. I'll see you on the next one.